Tommy Borghetti just built an empire from nothing, and the first person who is going to try to tear it down might not be a rival. It might be someone who used to sit on the same side of the table as him. Here is what nobody wants to say out loud. When a Taylor Sheridan show gives you everything you wanted, it is not being generous. It is setting a trap. And season 2 of Landman ended with the kind of setup that should make every single fan of this show deeply, deeply nervous. Tommy has his company, Angela is back, Cooper and Ariana are getting married, the whole crew is locked in, and everyone is exactly where they are supposed to be. And if you watched that finale and felt good about it, that feeling is the trap. Because Taylor Sheridan does not do happy endings, he does beautiful setups for brutal collapses, and season 3, episode 1 is where that collapse starts to take shape. Let's talk about what Tommy actually built, because it matters more than people are giving it credit for. This was not luck. This was not a handout. Tommy got fired, watched M-Tech's fall apart from the inside, survived Monty's death, and instead of sitting down and grieving what he lost, he moved immediately. He had Nate set up CT Oil exploration in Cattle, walked straight into a meeting with Galino, and came out of that room with $40 million in funding and a brand new company with his name behind it. On paper, that is the dream. That is the thing Tommy has been building towards since the very first episode of this show. He is not saving someone else's sinking ship anymore. He is not answering to people who do not respect what he brings to the table. He is the one at the head of the table now, and every single person he brought into that company has earned their seat. Cooper is the president, Rebecca is the COO and chief counsel, Nate is handling the money, Boss is running the crew, Dale is leading exploration, Thomas is leading drilling, Ariana is the office manager, and Tommy is the vice president holding the whole thing together. And think about that for a second. Every single person in that company has been in the trenches with Tommy. Every single one of them has a history with him that goes beyond a job title. This is not just a company, this is a family that survived something and came out the other side still standing, and in any other show, that would be the happy ending. But this is not any other show, this is Landman, and in Landman, the closer something looks like a family, the bigger the target it becomes. Because here is the thing about $40 million, it is not a gift. Galino did not hand Tommy that money because he believes in the dream. Galino handed Tommy that money because he expects a return, and returns come with timelines, and timelines come with pressure, and pressure in the oil business does not wait for anyone to get comfortable. Tommy promised Galino he would earn that money back fast, and I believe Tommy means that. I genuinely do. But the oil business does not care about intentions, it cares about results. And if the results do not come fast enough, if something gets in the way, if the ground does not cooperate or the market shifts, or someone decides to make Tommy's life harder from the outside, that $40 million relationship is going to become the most complicated thing in the room. And Tommy is going to have to manage that pressure while also managing a brand new company, a remarriage, and a crew of people whose lives and livelihoods are now tied directly to his decisions. That is a lot of weight for one man to carry. And season 3, episode 1 is going to show us immediately whether Tommy's shoulders are wide enough to hold all of it. Co-creator Christian Wallace already hinted at this when he talked about how these characters are entering new dynamics with each other, how it feels like family, how it feels like starting almost from scratch. And that word scratch is the one that should make you nervous, because starting from scratch means starting vulnerable. It means the foundation is new and untested. It means there are cracks that have not been found yet. And it means there are people in this industry watching CT Oil take its first steps who would love nothing more than to find one of those cracks before Tommy does. The enemies Tommy knows about are not the problem. Tommy is smart enough to handle the ones he can see coming. It is the ones he cannot see yet, the ones working quietly in the background, the ones who have not shown their hand yet because they are waiting for exactly the right moment when CT Oil is just exposed enough that one hard push could do real damage. That is what episode 1 is really setting up underneath all the optimism and the new office and the new company structure. Underneath all of that is a clock, and it is already ticking. So yes, Tommy's empire is rising, the team is in place, the money is there, the plan exists, but plans in a Taylor Sheridan show are like glass. Beautiful to look at, and one hard hit away from shattering completely, and the first hit, it might already be closer than Tommy thinks. Because the person most likely to crack this empire open from the inside is not a stranger. She is someone Tommy knows better than almost anyone else in this world, and she is sitting right now on the wrong side of everything he just built. So what happens when Cammy finds out? Let's talk about Cammy. Because if Section 1 was about everything Tommy gained, Section 2 is about everything Cammy is about to lose. And I do not mean just the company, I mean the story she has been telling herself since the moment Monty died. The story that says if she just fights hard enough, if she just holds on long enough, if she just refuses to accept the inevitable with enough stubbornness and enough love, she can save what her father built. That story is done. And Season 3, Episode 1 is going to be the moment she is finally forced to look that truth directly in the face with nowhere left to run from it. Here is what makes Cammy's situation so painful to watch and so complicated to understand. She was never wrong to fight. That is the thing people miss when they talk about her arc. Cammy did not fight for M-Tex because she was delusional. She fought for it because she loved it. Because to her, M-Tex was not just a company, it was her father, it was his legacy, it was the physical proof that Monty Whalen built something real and meaningful with his life. And when you love something that deeply, when your identity is that tangled up in the survival of something outside yourself, you do not just accept when people tell you it is over. You push back, you find another angle, you refuse, because accepting it feels like betraying the person you lost. And Cammy is not built for betrayal. She is built for loyalty. She is built to hold on. But holding on has a cost. And across Season 2, we watched that cost compound with every single episode. While Tommy was quietly laying the groundwork for something new, Cammy was pouring every last bit of herself into a company that Nate told her straight to her face was never meant to outlive the man who built it. That line hit hard when it happened. And it should have, because it was not cruel. It was just true. M-Tex was Monty's vision held together by Monty's relationships and Monty's reputation and Monty's presence in a room. Without Monty, the foundation was already gone. The building just had not finished falling yet, and Cammy spent an entire season trying to hold up walls that were already coming down whether she was there or not. And now she is heading into Season 3 with the walls finally gone. The company is done or close enough to done that the difference does not matter anymore. Monty is gone. The fight she gave everything to is over. And the grief of that is real, and it is layered, and it is the kind of grief that does not just sit still. It moves. It looks for somewhere to go. And the direction it decides to go in Season 3 is going to define Cammy's entire arc for this chapter of the show. Because grief that has nowhere healthy to land has a way of turning into something else. Something sharper, something that damages the people closest to the person carrying it. Now here's the part that I keep coming back to. The part that makes Cammy's situation in Season 3 not just sad but genuinely dangerous for the people around her. Tommy did not just move on from M-Tex, he moved on and then immediately built something better with the same people, in the same industry, in the same territory. And he did it fast, he did it quietly, and he did it without bringing Cammy along. And I want to be careful about how I say this because I do not think Tommy did anything wrong. He had every right to build CT Oil the way he built it with the people he chose to bring in. But right and wrong is not the lens Cammy is going to be looking through when she finds out the full picture of what he put together. The lens she is going to be looking through is loss. And through that lens, what Tommy did is not going to look like a business decision. It is going to look like abandonment. Think about what that moment of realization is going to feel like for her. She already lost her father. She already lost the company. She spent everything trying to save. She already knows that the industry has moved on without her input and without her consent. And then on top of all of that, she finds out that the one person in that world who actually understood the business the way she does, the one person she had a genuine, complicated, real connection with through all of it, built an entirely new company with an entirely new team and did not once pick up the phone to include her in that conversation. That is not just a business sting. That is personal. Whether it was meant to be or not, it is personal. And Cammy is going to feel every single layer of it at the same time. Di Moore has been absolutely extraordinary in this role, and I say that without any hesitation. The way she has played Cammy's grief and her stubbornness and her love and her pain across 2 seasons has been one of the best performances this show has to offer. And Season 3 is going to ask even more of her because Cammy in episode 1 is walking into the most emotionally exposed version of herself we have ever seen. She has no company to fight for anymore. She has no father to protect the legacy of. She has no clear role in the world that used to define her entirely. And the question of what Cammy does with that emptiness is one of the most important questions this entire season has to answer. Because there are 2 versions of how this plays out, and only one of them ends well for everyone involved. The first version is the one I genuinely want for her. The version where Cammy does the hardest thing she has ever done and swallows her pride and goes to Tommy and asks for help. Not as a defeat, not as a surrender, but as someone who finally accepts that the fight she was fighting is finished, and the only smart move now is to make sure she walks away from it with something instead of nothing, because if she goes to Tommy, Tommy will show up. I am completely sure of that. He could negotiate the sale of MTEX on her behalf. He could make sure she gets the best possible outcome from a situation that has very few good outcomes left in it. He could make sure that even in losing, Cammy wins something, but she has to ask. And asking is the one thing Cammy has never been good at. The second version is the one that worries me. The version where the grief and the isolation and the feeling of being left behind curdles into something reactive, something reckless, because Cammy has shown us before that when she feels cornered, when she feels like she has already lost and there is nothing left to protect, she makes decisions from that dark emotional place instead of from logic. And decisions made from that place in a Taylor Sheridan show do not just affect the person making them. They ripple outward. They touch the people who least deserve to be touched by them. And if Cammy goes that route in season 3, the person most likely to end up in the path of that damage is Tommy. The one person who, if she let him, could actually help her through this. And that is the cruelest part of it. Not that Cammy is suffering, but that the help she needs is right there. Closer than she thinks, from someone who respects her more than she probably realizes right now. But pride is a wall, and grief is a wall, and when you stack them on top of each other, even the people who want to get through to you cannot find the door. So the real question going into season 3, episode 1, is not whether Cammy is going to struggle. She is. The question is whether she struggles towards something or away from it. Because the direction she chooses in those first episodes is going to determine whether she ends this season standing or whether the woman who fought harder than anyone to save her father's legacy ends up becoming the very thing that threatens everything Tommy just built. And honestly, I am not sure even she knows which way she is going to go yet. Let's talk about Cooper. Because if Tommy is the empire builder and Cammy is the one unraveling at the edges, Cooper is something else entirely. Cooper is the man who did the right thing for the wrong reasons in the worst possible way at the most complicated moment and now has to live inside the consequences of that while also trying to build a future that feels normal. And normal is the one thing season 3 is not going to allow him to have. Not even close, not even for a minute. Because Cooper walked out of season 2 technically free, but not actually safe. And the difference between those two things is going to be the engine driving his entire arc this season in ways that are going to be genuinely hard to watch. Let me take you back to what happened because the details matter here. Ariana was assaulted, and Cooper found out. And Cooper being Cooper, the man who does not calculate, does not strategize, does not sit back and wait for institutions to handle things that feel personal and immediate and wrong, went and found the man himself. He did not call the police, he did not consult a lawyer, he did not ask Tommy what to do, even though Tommy would have told him to slow down and think. He just went. Because that is who Cooper is. When someone he loves gets hurt, everything else in his brain shuts off, and the only thing left running is the part that says, go handle it. And he went, and he handled it. And the man died, not from the punches Cooper threw, from a heart attack. The medical facts are completely on Cooper's side. But here is the thing about facts. In a world where powerful people decide what the truth looks like, facts are just the starting point of the argument, not the end of it. Because the man who died was connected, he was connected to a businessman, a powerful one. The kind of powerful that does not measure its influence in money alone, but in the ability to pick up a phone and have the right people in the right rooms start moving in the right direction. And that businessman decided that having one of his associates turn up dead in a back alley after an altercation with a roughneck from West Texas was not something he was willing to let go quietly. So he pushed. He applied pressure. He made sure the detectives assigned to the case understood what outcome was expected of them. And those detectives went after Cooper with an intensity that had absolutely nothing to do with justice and everything to do with satisfying a man who felt disrespected by what happened and wanted someone to pay for it properly. Cooper survived that. The case did not stick the way the businessman wanted it to. And walking out of that situation without a conviction should feel like a win. It should feel like the universe finally giving Cooper a break after everything he has been through. But I keep coming back to something that I think a lot of people glossed over in the relief of watching him get out from under those charges. The businessman is still out there. He still lost someone. He still feels like the outcome was wrong, and he still has every resource he had before any of this happened. The only thing that changed is that now he has a grudge on top of all of it, and powerful people with resources and grudges and unfinished business do not let things go. They do not move on. They do not accept the outcome and walk away with their dignity intact. They wait, they recalibrate, they find a better angle, and they come back when you are distracted by something else. When you are happy, when you have something to lose. And Cooper has never had more to lose than he does right now going into season 3. He is getting married to Ariana. He is the president of CT Oil. He has a real legitimate future laid out in front of him for the first time in a long time. And every single one of those things is something that can be taken away. Every single one of those things is a pressure point. And if that businessman is as smart as powerful people in Taylor Sheridan's world tend to be, he already knows this. He is already watching. He is already identifying which of those things hurts the most when you take it. And he is already planning the sequence in which he is going to start taking them. Now, here is what makes Cooper's situation even more complicated than just the external threat hanging over him. Cooper himself is the variable that cannot be controlled. Tommy can plan around external threats, he can read the room, he can slow down and think 3 moves ahead when he needs to, but Cooper does not have that gear. Cooper operates on feeling and instinct and love and loyalty, and when those things get activated, his judgment goes out the window completely. And the businessman who is coming for him knows this. You could see it in the way the detectives approached the whole situation during season 2. They were not just building a legal case. They were studying him. They were watching how he responds under pressure. They were mapping out exactly what kind of man Cooper is and exactly how to get him to react in a way that gives them what they need. And what they need is for Cooper to do something impulsive. Something that cannot be defended, something that crosses a line that even Tommy cannot pull him back from. That is the trap being set for Cooper in season 3. Not a legal trap, not a business trap, a personal one. Because if you can make a man like Cooper feel like the people he loves are being threatened again, he is going to respond the same way he responded the first time. He is going to go handle it, and this time, whoever is waiting on the other side of that response is going to be ready for him. This time, it is not going to be a heart attack that complicates the situation. This time, it is going to be a setup, deliberate and clean and designed specifically to end Cooper in a way that cannot be undone. And Ariana is right in the middle of all of this, whether she realizes it or not. She already went through one of the worst experiences a person can go through. And she survived it, and she and Cooper came out the other side of it with their relationship still standing, which is remarkable given everything that happened. The wedding they are planning is not just a celebration. For both of them, it is a declaration. It is the two of them saying out loud that what they have is real and it survived and it is worth fighting for. And I want that for them. I genuinely do. But I have this feeling, the same feeling I always get when a Taylor Sheridan show gives a character something beautiful right before it tests them, that the wedding is not going to happen cleanly. Something is going to surface, something from the legal situation or from the businessman or from the new company or from some combination of all three is going to cast a shadow over that moment, and Cooper is going to have to decide in real time how he handles it. With patience and strategy the way Tommy would, or with his whole chest the way Cooper always does. The wedding is also significant for another reason that does not get talked about enough. When Cooper and Ariana get married, Ariana becomes fully embedded in the CT Oil world. She is already the office manager, she is already part of the team. But marriage changes the stakes. It means whatever comes for Cooper now also comes for her by extension, and Ariana has already been through enough, watching her get pulled back into danger because of the fallout from a situation that started with someone hurting her in the first place would be one of the cruelest narrative turns this show could make. And knowing Taylor Sheridan, it is absolutely on the table. Because that is the thing about Cooper that breaks my heart a little every time I think about it going into season 3. He is genuinely one of the most decent people in this entire show. Underneath all the impulsiveness and the fighting and the raw emotional reactions, Cooper is a good man. He loves hard, he protects fiercely, he would walk through fire for the people he cares about without a second thought, and in a different world, those qualities would make him a hero with a clean story. But in Taylor Sheridan's world, those exact qualities are the ones that get good people destroyed. Because goodness without strategy is just a vulnerability with a nicer name. And the businessman who is coming for Cooper in season 3 has had an entire off-season to figure out exactly how to use Cooper's goodness against him. So here is what I need you to think about. If Cooper is the most emotionally exposed person in CT Oil, and if the businessman already knows how to provoke him, and if the wedding is coming and the stakes could not be higher, what happens the moment that provocation actually lands? What does Cooper do? And more importantly, what does it cost everyone around him when he does it? Let's end where everything in this show ultimately comes back to. Tommy and Angela. Because every single thread we have pulled apart in this breakdown, every empire being built, every character unraveling, every threat forming in the background, all of it eventually leads back to these two people and what their relationship can actually survive when the pressure of season 3 hits its peak. And I want to be honest with you right now before we get into it. I am rooting for them. I have always rooted for them. But rooting for something and believing it is going to be okay are two completely different things. And right now, sitting at the edge of season 3, I do not believe it is going to be okay. Not easily, not cleanly, not without cost. Here is what makes Tommy and Angela so compelling and so complicated at the same time. These are not two people who fell in love and then had problems. These are two people who are fundamentally, structurally difficult for each other. They argue in a specific way that only people who know each other completely can argue. They hurt each other in the exact spots where the armor is thinnest because they have had years to find those spots and map them out. They push and they pull and they drift and they find their way back and then they drift again. And season 2 showed us all of that cycle playing out one more time before they finally chose each other again at the end. The remarriage felt real. It felt earned. It felt like two people who have run out of reasons to keep pretending they want to be apart, making the only decision that actually makes sense for them. And I believed it. I still believe it. But believing in the decision does not mean believing in the outcome. Because Tommy is not walking into this remarriage as a man with space to be a husband. He is walking into it as the vice president of a brand new company carrying $40 million in investor money with a crew of people depending on him and an industry full of rivals watching every single move he makes, waiting for the first real mistake. The Tommy that Angela is remarrying is the most burdened version of Tommy we have ever seen on this show. Not burdened in a broken way. Burdened in the way that a man who finally has everything he worked for is burdened by the weight of not wanting to lose any of it. And that kind of weight does not stay at the office. It comes home, it sits at the dinner table, it lies in bed at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, running numbers and scenarios and contingencies that never quite add up cleanly enough to let you rest. And Angela knows this version of Tommy. She has lived with this version before. The version that goes quiet when the stress gets heavy. The version that disappears into the problem so completely that the people around him stop feeling like priorities and start feeling like distractions. Angela has been on the receiving end of that disappearing act before, and it damaged her. It damaged them. And the reason the remarriage is